All right, back to our Sens Central NHL draft rankings. And coming in at number 73, Ontario Hockey League defenseman Luca Marrelli, playing for the Oshawa Generals, who are owned by a minority owner of the Ottawa Senators, Rocco Tullio. But Luca Marrelli, he's an offensive juggernaut at that level.
Yeah, definitely. When you look at the points for Luca Morelli, Ross, certainly he's putting up points. 67 games, he had 6 goals, 51 assists, good for 57 points. And when we're looking at these prospects, Ross, typically the prospects we look at from the OHL, from their minor league teams, usually somewhere in the GTHL. That's very typical. Usually, after they're done with their minor league team, they have, I don't know, 5, 10 games in the OHL, and then they get their first OHL season. Not the case for Luca Morelli here, as he already has 3 full OHL seasons under his belt, 187 regular season games. And what I like about Morelli, Ross, is when you're looking at prospects, especially defensemen that have that much experience, you want to see their progression year over year. So, first year, 2021, in 62 games, 12 points, only 12 assists. That's fine, getting your feet wet here. And then next year, in less games, he more than doubles his points from 12 points to 28. And then Ross, this year, like I mentioned, 67 points, and then he gets up to 57 points in this one. So this is a guy that's doubling his points year after year. That's pretty impressive for a D man.
He's 8th in the OHL among defensemen in scoring this year, and he's just a guy who I think his skill is going to transition eventually. I think that he's, again, at this stage in the draft, 73rd on our rankings. It's a guy who's going to be a project. You're going to have to wait at least a little while, but a right shot defenseman with good hockey IQ and a guy who's just showing that development continuing to get better. Now, one thing about that is he is one of the oldest players in the draft, an October 2005 birthday, 6'1", 180, and a guy who Craig Button likes more than anybody else among the 7 rankings that we use. He has him up at 40 on his rankings. Bob McKenzie has him at 57 and Elite Prospects at 87. Dare I guess that his skating could use a little bit of work?
I mean, yeah, with EP, if he's down there, that's probably the case. I didn't really see too many people knock his skating, Ross, so I don't think it's a detriment to his development, but maybe that's an area where he doesn't necessarily excel in.
With Luca Morelli, you're getting a player where I think where you're going to use him is important. And I don't think that you can rush this guy to pro, even though he's one of the older players. I think you're at least looking at 2 more years in junior and then coming
Well,
up.
that'll be the max, right? Because he's already got 3 full seasons.
Right. True. So how would you develop him if you're a team, let's say a fan's watching this right after their team just drafted Morelli?
That's a tough question, Ross, because I feel like it depends on where your team is at prospect wise. Like, let's put it into the Ottawa Senators perspective. The Sens need prospects. Their prospect pipeline is absolutely bare. So I think they would be a team where they could rush him into Belleville a little sooner. But if you're a team that has deep cupboards, like let's say you're one of the rebuilding teams in the East, you could probably take your time here and then get him into the mix a little bit later. Although I think this is a guy that at 6'1", 181 pounds, he's not a massive guy by any means, but certainly not a small guy either. So I think he could play in the pro level, especially if he bulks up a little bit more as well. But what I really like about Morelli is he's so crafty with the puck in the ozone. Like I saw one replay where he's behind the net in the ozone with the puck, which you don't see defensemen do very often. And then he curls out and then draws defenders towards him. They think he's going to wrap around. And then right before he wraps it around on net, he spots a guy open in front and passes it to him. Boom, goal. And the players on the other team are like, how did that just happen to us? Like, what's going on here? So this guy is very patient with the puck on his stick. He's quarterbacks the Generals power play. And I like that he's able to hold the puck and make the decision. All right, is my best opportunity here to shoot it, or should I hold on to a little bit, see if my teammates can get open and work on a pass here? Now, some scouts have kind of knocked him, being like, all right, sometimes he's got to make a quicker decision and just rip that on net and hope for the best rather than hold it. And then he's just kind of, I don't want to say wasting time, but he's just eating up time that could be generating offense instead. So that's one thing that maybe Marrelli, through watching video and stuff, be like, okay, there's an instance where I just got to shoot that. There's an instance where I can hold on to that. So little things like that, where if you have a guy that's going to quarterback a power play, you want his decision making to be a little bit more decisive.
I agree with that. And what I'll say about the inflated point total, and this is not taking anything away from him, but he plays on an elite team. They're currently in the OHL finals, 20 games. And when you're looking at the assist disparity, where it's like, how many of those is he putting it on the tape of Callum Ritchie, who's just an absolute superstar at that level, and just getting them? But I still think there's a lot of upside from him. Is this, Pilsy, your 4-star Senator?
I'll get to that in just a sec, Ross. But currently, the Generals are down 3-0 to London. Unfortunately, this has been a tough series for Marrelli here, as he's a -6 with only 1 assist. So that kind of points to, look, when your top defenseman, or at least one of them, isn't performing, you're going to have a hard time winning games. And that's happening up against the London Knights here. That is to say, though, even though he's struggling in this series, Ross, this is my very first 4-star prospect, Luca Marrelli. I like this kid. Like I mentioned, decent size, right shot defenseman. We've only been talking about the point totals here, Ross, but funny enough, I read a bunch of scout reports that mentioned, although this guy doesn't put up points as much as you would want, which I thought was confusing. I mean, 57 points in 67 games, pretty damn good. A lot of them point to how great of a defender he is. He pressures the puck in the D zone, plays a physical game. So you got a defenseman that has all this experience, puts up points, but really is applauded more for his defensive play and has decent size, right shot guy. Like I mentioned it, the Ottawa Senators prospect pool is bare. I don't think I would have an issue at all picking this guy with the second round pick and getting him in the mix pretty soon here, because two-way right shot defensemen are hard to come by. So I really like Luca Marrelli, and I think he's someone that the Sens could eye with that second round pick.
I feel like I'm playing devil's advocate for you today, but I look at two-way defensemen that the Sens have drafted in the past a little bit higher, and it's been JBD, Lassie, Ben Roger. Right. And that's kind of giving me a little bit of pause. So I think I'm once, twice, 3 times bitten. Now I'm shy over here, number 4. But if Luca Marrelli's the guy, I hope he becomes a great Ottawa Senator. But if your team just drafted him, be patient. And I think there could be some very big dividends with Luca Marrelli, who comes in at number 73 on our 2024 NHL draft rankings.